All right, so let's quickly talk about this best wrestler alive thing that I was kind of interested in talking about, and we won't spend too much time on this because we still have to talk about Raw, but Raw 1993, by the way. But I had this idea because of this weekend where we were watching so many great wrestlers that you actually did have an opportunity to kind of eye test a ton of guys who you would consider to be in the running for best wrestler going today. And again, we're not talking about buy rates. We're not talking about, you know, selling out stadiums and charismatic interviews and this and that. So some, like Brock Lesnar is not going to be on this list. He just doesn't wrestle enough like really high quality, great matches. And based on that, I thought, this is actually a good little exercise for wrestling fans because you kind of, in today's era, like you said earlier in the show, there's a lot of sameness in the matches, but you're also seeing guys who give a shit, and I think that's important. Maybe in the past you didn't have to give a shit all the time about giving the fans this amazing performance. And I think that's one thing that separates wrestling today from the past is like there is a real guys put pressure on themselves to have really, really, really good matches. And that wasn't always the case. And that wasn't always even within the framework of a wrestling show in 1993, like when we're talking about it, when Johnny B. Bad and PN News went out to have a match, their idea wasn't like, oh, we're gonna steal the show. It was like, okay, we have this thing, we got to get this thing over. Here's the finish, and that will lead into TV in the next show. But I'm watching, we're watching a lot of stuff, and I wanted to put together a list and see what you thought about it because I had two tiers of guys. Now, what's going to be missing from these tiers is Lucha because I don't watch enough of it in order to say whether or not I can claim who's the best guy. And also, at least in America, ROH, I looked at the list and, maybe, there's a couple guys like Jay Lethal who you could put on a best wrestler list. But other than that, like I don't really see a ton going there. So if I miss someone from ROH, I know our buddy Nick's gonna be like, "What do you mean? Matt Taven's the best wrestler in the world today?" Um,
Mm,
but yeah. So that's what's gonna be missing. Also, you would know the non New Japan scene more than I would. So Dragon Gate and All Japan and all that stuff. You would know those guys better than me. I definitely have Miyahara on the list in my tier. So here's my tier A. Let me know what you think. So I have Okada, Tanahashi, Osprey, Miyahara, Kenny Omega, Kota Ibushi, Ishii, and Johnny Gargano. And I added AJ Styles because I wanted to add a WWE guy in tier A. Now, the argument against AJ is he hasn't had a great match in a long time, and I think his current WWE run is defined as, oh, I think AJ's going to have a great match, and instead he had a good match, and that's kind of been his current WWE run. Now, some people are okay with that. Some people think those matches are actually great. I think that they're mostly just good, like the Ricochet match from this weekend, right? Like it was a fine match, but it did not exceed my expectations for that match in any way. So when I asked Big Dave about this, he thought instead of AJ Styles, if I wanted to put a WWE guy in there, that it should be Daniel Bryan. And I thought, well, Daniel Bryan had the Kofi match, which was really good, but since then, like he hasn't really had that match. And he said, well, the tag matches that Daniel Bryan are in. He's probably working better than AJ in his singles matches. So if I add Daniel Bryan to the tier A and remove AJ and put him into tier B, that may be the move. The other move that he suggested was adding Zack Sabre Jr. to tier A because he thinks from a performance standpoint that Zack should be in there. So that those are just Dave's thoughts. Now, tier B, I have Seth Rollins, Jay White, Ricochet, Roman Reigns, Pac, Chris Jericho, Naito, Walter, and either Daniel Bryan or AJ Styles. So that would be my tier B. And I think the argument would be that Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns haven't had as good of matches, and probably Ricochet too, if you count his current WWE run and not the past NXT run plus all the indies that he was doing, that maybe Roman and Seth from a match to match performance standpoint don't deserve to be there. The way I look at it is I know how good those guys are, and if given the right opportunity, I know that they're right at that level as these guys. So if we were doing a best wrestler alive, am I missing anybody? And also, would you substitute guys and bring one up from tier B and bring someone down from tier A?
I think your list is pretty good. I kind of want to throw Roman Reigns in there because he always seems to have good matches too. And I know maybe in the tier B, like I just think he always, when it comes to like the big shows, I mean, he always delivers. And, look at the performance at those last review. Look at the performance at Stomping Ground with, he's in there with Drew too, and Drew's really good. I just think Roman gets kind of lost in the shuffle when it comes to people talking about really good performers. Like for me, like he always delivers. I always enjoy his matches.
Yeah.
Another tier B guy would be Nakajima Noah. He's really good. Just one of the best. I think your tier A is pretty good, and it's hard to pick who's the best because like there's so much. Like it all depends on I guess it kind of depends what you like, right? Like, is it the action, the offense, the execution of moves compared to like the selling, the registering, the storytelling of like a Tanahashi? Like I just think it's kind of like it's kind of cool. You're always gonna get all these different opinions, and it's a great discussion. But like to me, I still think the very best guy, like, because I'm into the whole, I like the storytelling, I like the subtleties of matches and the slow builds. Like, still Tanahashi to me always delivers that. I'm just fascinated by his genius. I think Jay White's moving up there for me. Like when it comes to what he's been doing
after this tournament, I may have to put him in tier A.
Yeah, I think he can. I think this is a good opportunity for him to jump into that position. I watch All Japan on a regular basis. I watch most of the shows, and you're right. Definitely Kento Miyahara should be on tier. It should be on tier A, and he should be high up there. It's unfortunate a lot of people don't watch that promotion. But like if they did, they would love him because he's really 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 good. So no, it's who do you think? Who are you going with?
Well, the other thing I was going to say is, I'm sure I'm missing guys from Europe that I just don't get to see either. So just saying that, for people, because, we have a lot of people in our Facebook group who are outside of the U.S. and they have their guys that they watch. So, I obviously do not know those territories well enough to add guys there. But you're going Tanahashi. I'm still going Okada. Like, I know Ospreay is like ready. Like, Ospreay is like, he is right there. I really worry about the injuries, and I really worry about his mental not even focus, because I think he's a focused guy. I just think the emotional and the mental aspect that he deals with, he's acknowledged that many times. I think it's really hard, right? Like we saw Eddie Guerrero, when he won the title, went through that same thing, and it affected his run, and it affected really his the end of his career there. And so I think, you look at someone like Okada, he takes the responsibility of being the top guy. He is not the most popular guy. That's Naito. He is not the most respected guy. That's Tanahashi. But he knows he's the best guy to hold that title. And I think that means something. And so I still have him at the top. I have Ospreay right there. To a specific style, we were talking about this AEW style, this, a lot of these moves and a lot of this indie style. I think Johnny Gargano is probably the best currently at that specific style.
Hmm.
And you know we'll see what Omega does. He's pretty much taken most of this year off, and so he's got stuff. You know, what if he can put this AEW television show on his back, and you know come his match with Moxley at All Out. You know he's great, and he's going to be on this list no matter what. And you know we'll see what happens at the end of G1. If Kota, you know, like you said, you think Kota's going to win this thing. If he has an amazing tournament off of one ankle, then you know maybe he's the best guy. But I would still put Okada on this. So again, for those listening, reach out to us on Twitter. I'm going to put this on the group in our Fight Game Podcast Facebook group and see what other people think about this conversation that we're having, because I'd love to hear what people think. And I think this is something that you know we should probably do a couple times, you know, a year, maybe right before the end of the year when we're looking at the awards, like who is the best guy, like because it changes. It doesn't mean like you know who's the best guy of all time, right? Like it's like who's the best guy going right now, like who, like
Hmm.
you know who is you know who's having the best matches right now. So yeah, fun conversation. And yeah, if you're on Twitter, hit us up, and I'm interested in your thoughts and who you think is the best currently going right now.